Warning! Sometimes things aren't always what they seem. A place that promises solace and spiritual guidance can sometimes lead down a dark path. Today, we're diving into a serious topic. The 13 signs your church might be a cult. We often think of cults as groups in remote compounds, far removed from society. But the truth is, they can exist in plain sight, often disguised as something familiar and comforting. Join me now as we venture into the shadowy corners of belief and explore the subtle signs that distinguish a true spiritual community from a dangerous organization masquerading as one. This journey may be unsettling, but knowledge is our greatest defense. Let's begin. The first warning sign we encounter is the untouchable leader. In a healthy spiritual community, leaders are human, capable of mistakes, and open to constructive criticism. But in a cult, the leader often occupies a position of absolute authority. Their word is law, unquestionable and final. Doubts are not welcomed. They're seen as a sign of weakness, a crack in the foundation of their control. This unquestioning obedience creates an environment ripe for manipulation. When dissenting voices are silenced, the leader's pronouncements, no matter how outlandish, become the only acceptable truth. This is how even the most absurd claims can take root and flourish. It's the silencing of questions, the stifling of critical thinking that allows a cult to thrive. The second sign. Imagine a place where curiosity is met with suspicion, where seeking clarification is seen as a challenge to authority. This is the hallmark of a cult. Questions, the very engine of learning and growth, are stifled. In healthy organizations, questions are encouraged. They are seen as a sign of engagement, a desire to understand and deepen one's commitment. Open dialogue fosters trust and strengthens the bonds of community. But in a cult, questions are perceived as threats. They challenge the carefully constructed narrative, the illusion of absolute truth. Those who dare to question are often met with hostility, ostracism, or even punishment. This suppression of inquiry creates an environment of fear and intellectual stagnation. It's a clear indicator that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. The third sign that your church might be a cult lies in its view of the outside world and how it treats those who are not part of its inner circle. Now, most religions preach love and understanding, urging followers to embrace people from all walks of life, regardless of their background or beliefs. But cults? Cults often take a different, more insidious approach. They tend to foster a sense of elitism, an air of superiority over those who are not part of their tight-knit circle, creating an exclusive environment. Members are made to believe that they are the chosen few, the select group privy to a higher truth that the rest of the world simply doesn't grasp or understand. This belief, this conviction that they alone possess the ultimate truth, can be intoxicating and deeply compelling. It creates a powerful bond within the group, a sense of shared purpose and belonging that can be hard to resist, drawing members closer together. But it also breeds a dangerous sense of separation, a we versus them mentality that can have devastating consequences for both members and outsiders. By elevating themselves above others, cults create a dangerous divide, one that allows them to justify harmful actions and manipulate their members without question or remorse. Remember, true faith welcomes diversity and encourages compassion for all, fostering unity rather than division. The fourth sign we're going to explore delves deeply into the intricate realm of the mind. In our search for meaning, for a profound connection to something greater than ourselves, we humans are naturally drawn to practices that alter our state of consciousness. Meditation, chanting, singing, speaking in tongues. These activities can be powerful tools for spiritual growth and personal enlightenment. But in the wrong hands, they can also be twisted, misused to suppress critical thinking and enforce conformity, leading to a loss of individual autonomy. Cults often employ these practices not to enlighten but to control and manipulate their followers. Intense emotional experiences, particularly when combined with sleep deprivation or other forms of physical stress, can leave individuals vulnerable to suggestion, making them more likely to accept the teachings of the group without question or doubt. This is not to say that all groups who engage in these practices are cults. Far from it. Many use these methods for genuine spiritual growth and community building, but it is a red flag, a warning sign that warrants further scrutiny and careful consideration. If a group discourages critical thinking, if they insist that their way is the only way, and if they use these practices to enforce that belief, then it's time to ask some serious questions and seek clarity. Remember, true faith welcomes questions, encourages introspection, and values the individual's right to choose their own spiritual path. It thrives on open dialogue and mutual respect. This is gonna blow your mind. And now we come to the fifth sign on our list, and this one cuts to the very core of personal autonomy. In any healthy relationship, whether it's between friends, family members, or even within a religious organization, there's a fundamental respect for individual choice. We are free to think our own thoughts, to make our own decisions, but in a cult, this freedom is often eroded, replaced by the will of the leader. The leader becomes the ultimate authority, dictating not just what members should believe, but how they should think, act, and even feel. This level of control can extend to the most intimate aspects of their lives, from who they marry and how they raise their children to what they wear and what they eat. This kind of manipulation can be subtle at first, disguised as guidance or spiritual direction, but over time it becomes increasingly difficult for members to distinguish their own thoughts and feelings from those of the group. They may come to believe that their own desires and aspirations are somehow wrong, even sinful, and that the only path to true happiness lies in complete submission to the leader's will. This, my friends, is the insidious nature of cults. They don't just demand your obedience, they demand your very essence, your individuality, your ability to think and choose for yourself. But remember this, true faith empowers, it liberates, it celebrates the unique spark of divinity that resides within each and every one of us. True faith encourages us to be our authentic selves, to embrace our individuality, and to live in harmony with our inner truth. The sixth sign. Cults thrive on division. They need to create a sense of us versus them to solidify their control. This isn't about healthy debate or disagreement, it's about painting the outside world, including former members, family, and even entire religions, as dangerous or misguided. This tactic serves several dark purposes. It isolates members from potential support systems, reinforces the idea that the cult is the only source of truth, and fuels a climate of fear and suspicion. Remember, healthy communities build bridges, cults build walls. The seventh sign. In any healthy organization, there are checks and balances. Leaders are accountable to someone or something, whether it's a board of directors, a set of bylaws, or even just the expectations of their community. But in cults, the leader often operates with alarming autonomy. Their word is law, and questioning their decisions is seen as an act of defiance, not responsible engagement. This lack of accountability creates a breeding ground for abuse. Without external oversight, unethical behavior can fester and grow, unchecked and unchallenged. It's a red flag that should never be ignored. True leadership thrives on transparency and accountability, not secrecy and absolute power. The eighth sign. We all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Cults understand this and exploit it ruthlessly. They often claim to be working towards a noble goal, saving souls, creating utopia, even ushering in a new age. But here's the dangerous twist: to achieve these supposedly exalted ends, any means are justified. Lying, cheating, manipulation, even violence, it's all permissible in service of the greater good, as defined by the cult. This kind of thinking is a slippery slope, and it often leads to a complete erosion of ethical boundaries. Remember, the path to hell is often paved with good intentions. Guilt and shame, the ninth sign. These powerful emotions can drive us to seek forgiveness, to make amends, to change our ways. But in the wrong hands, they can be twisted into tools of manipulation. Cults often leverage these feelings to keep their members in line. Past mistakes are dredged up, constantly reminding individuals of their supposed failings. Doubts about the group are reframed as personal shortcomings, eroding self-worth and fostering dependence on the cult for validation. This constant barrage of negativity creates a climate of fear and self-doubt. Members become afraid to question or leave, convinced that they are unworthy of love or acceptance outside the confines of the group. Trapped in a cycle of guilt and shame, they become easy to control, willing to endure almost anything, to earn the approval of their manipulators. The 10th sign. Imagine a group so convinced of its own righteousness, so driven by a sense of purpose, that it becomes consumed with bringing others into the fold. This relentless focus on recruitment is another hallmark of a cult. New members are not just welcomed, they are actively sought out, often through deceptive means. The promise of belonging, of finding meaning and purpose, can be a powerful lure, especially to those feeling lost or vulnerable. But this drive for expansion isn't about altruism. New recruits provide not only validation but also resources, money, labor, and social influence. The more members a cult amasses, the greater its power and reach. This constant influx of fresh faces also serves another more insidious purpose. It helps to drown out the voices of dissent to maintain the illusion of universal acceptance within the group. The 11th sign. While the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment might be the stated goal of many groups, for some, the accumulation of wealth becomes the true driving force. Within the structure of a cult, this desire for financial gain can take on a sinister dimension. The line between faith and finance becomes blurred. Donations may be expected, not as acts of generosity, but as requirements for spiritual advancement. Members are often pressured to contribute beyond their means, sacrificing their financial security for the promise of intangible rewards. The leadership, meanwhile, may live lavishly, justifying their extravagance as a reflection of their elevated status. This disparity between the haves and have-nots within the group further reinforces the power structure, creating a climate of fear and resentment. In such an environment, questions about financial transparency are often met with hostility or evasion. The pursuit of profit, cloaked in the language of faith, becomes the ultimate betrayal of trust. Time, the 12th sign. It's the one resource we all have in equal measure, yet some organizations seem to demand more than their fair share. In the grip of a cult, days can begin to blur, filled with endless meetings, volunteer work and fundraising efforts. The line between devotion and obligation becomes blurred, with members often sacrificing their jobs, education and even family time. This constant demand for time serves a dual purpose. It reinforces dependency on the group while simultaneously isolating individuals from the outside world. The 13th sign. Isolation. It's a powerful tool. A seed of doubt is easily sown in fertile ground, but what happens when that ground is deliberately kept barren? Cults thrive on control, and a surefire way to maintain it is to limit exposure to outside influences, even from friends and family who express concern. Members are encouraged, sometimes even pressured, to live with other members, to socialize only within the confines of the group. This creates an echo chamber where the group's ideology is constantly reinforced and dissenting voices are effectively silenced. Recognizing the signs of a potentially harmful group is the first step towards protecting yourself and your loved ones. Remember, true faith should empower and uplift, not control and manipulate. If you found this video useful, please leave a comment below and ask any questions you have about this topic. We'd love to hear from you.